Hello and welcome to Conversations with Lady Pruitte. Joining me today is the Brown Ladies Book Club. Hello, ladies. I would
Hello.
like for you to introduce yourself, and I want you to let us know how long you've been a lover of reading and what is your favorite genre to read.
I'll start. I am Felicia Burris, and I have always loved to read. As a child, reading was my favorite subject, and it was something I found myself doing a lot of. And my favorite genre is probably mystery thriller.
Hello, I am Danielle Powell, and I would also agree that my love of reading started when I was a young girl. I would read a lot. Would check out books, the book fairs. I was always picking up books, so I really enjoy reading. And also, like Felicia, mystery thriller is definitely my book of choice.
And I'm Delia Pruitte. The first thing I remember reading, I think I was in the womb, and I think I was reading what my mom was reading. I don't remember what it was. It was a long time ago, but I've loved reading as long as I can remember knowing how to read. I was always that kid that I don't know if my parents knew this, but I used a lot of lunch money on books and book fairs. I was that kid. But I don't know that I can name down a genre. I love a lot of different kinds of books. But the thing I love the most about reading, I love being absorbed in a good story. So whether that's, your standard fiction, thriller, mystery, whatever that would look like, even young adult fiction for some of the students I teach, I like a good story.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm a little bit like Delia. I love a good story, but I can't say that I actually had a love of reading since I was a child. When I was younger, what I remember was I just loved looking at pictures. So I would only get books that had pictures. And for a long time, well past the time that I should have been reading chapter books, I was still looking at books that had pictures. But I would say my love of reading actually came after I was married. I married young, and it was, and had children young at a young age. So reading was a way of escape. So that's when I really developed a love of reading. And the books that I remember starting to read was the Mary Higgins Clark, which were mystery books. Now I would say my favorite genre is more like, I do like some literature, but I also love like international fiction, where you get to learn about other cultures and things like that. That tends to be my favorite. All right, wonderful. Well, ladies, I'm so glad that you're joining me today. And I want to kind of share with the people how we kind of came about. Because the way we kind of developed into a book club was because we were all reading the book called Becoming by Michelle Obama. And when we discovered that we were all reading it, we said, hey, why don't we get together and just kind of discuss the book? So we actually did that, and we enjoyed it so much that we just decided to keep reading books. And we don't even do it on a regular basis. We're kind of, off and on. We suggest books. Some are hits, some are misses, some we read, some we don't. So it's just fun. So, every once in a while we'll get together and just talk about a book that we read. But there was a book that we read about, I'd say about 2 or 3 months ago, that I really enjoyed. And I think we all did because of our reaction when we got together and talked about it. And it has a strange name. It's called My Sister, the Serial Killer. And it is a novel written by Oyinkan Braithwaite. And I know I'm probably butchering her name, but she is a wonderful Nigerian novelist. And the book only has 240 pages, but you can read this book in one day because it's such an easy read, but it's also a page turner, so it keeps you going, following this story. So to get started, ladies, why don't we have one of you give a short summary of the book, and we'll just kind of pitch in and help out with the summary, and then we can start digging into some of the questions.
Right. So this was, like you said, a really short book, but there was a lot inside the book. So without giving away the ending, the basic plot of the book is there are two sisters, and one sister is a serial killer. Herself, and the older sister finds herself having to protect and literally clean up the messes of the baby sister who is the serial killer. There's a lot of underlying issues that go along with the book. In just those little bit of pages, there are a lot of other things that you learn about these characters, their story, their backstory, their family, and why a sister feels it necessary to cover for her younger sister after knowing that she is a serial killer. What am I missing, ladies? What else did you guys pull from this?
One thing I think is important to mention in the summary of the book, the older sister Corday and the younger sister Ayola, it's always the younger sister Ayola. It's like it just happened. It's not like she's intentionally, going out and saying, I'm gonna kill some killings today. It seems like it's always this, oops, I spilled some tea on the floor. It's always that kind of thought process. So I think that again harks to the deeper issues that you mentioned as to what is going on behind the scenes in these dynamic relationships that causes her to just keep accidentally killing her boyfriends.
Yes, that's fun. And also another thing that surprises you in the book is that Corday seems like a very well put together, educated young lady. And the last thing you would think is that she's going around cleaning up and moving bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. In all other areas of her life, like you said, she's very, professional. She's, advancing in her career. She's making good decisions, has a good head on her shoulders. And yet when it comes to her sister, it's like the one area of her life that she continues to fall into these patterns that really, as you learn, as the book develops, you learn that started really at a very young age, just how they relate to one another and kind of the roles that they play with each other and their family. And it's like she gets the call and she goes right into forensics cleanup mode without any questions asked. So,
and she's very good at it. She's very proficient at this, which is another thing that gets me. All right, I'm going to start just so so our audience can kind of get an idea of how short these chapters are. I'm going to actually read the first chapter, and the first chapter is called Words, and it reads, Ayola summons me with these words. Corday, I killed him. I had hoped I would never hear those words again. Then chapter 2.
That's one of the things I really liked about this book. We talked about it being a really short, quick read. I literally read it in one day, one sitting, and the chapters, they move. Like the author did a really great job. The pace of it, each chapter just kind of, it's like, oh, wow. Like with that opening, you're automatically like, you don't have to build up and wait and try to figure out, oh, what's happening. It's like, oh, okay, I killed him. There we go. We're right into the plot of the story.
Isn't that amazing? And then also even though it's just a few words, there's only like 4 sentences there. And it's so jam-packed with so much going on in the background, because it makes you want to say, okay, wait, killed? Okay, somebody killed somebody? Wait, you're calling me because you killed somebody? What's going on? Why do I have to help? And I have to help you with this? So that immediately kind of jumps you right into the conflict of the story.
That's the mark of a really good author, who can grab you immediately and bring you and pull you into that book and make you want to read the rest of that book. Because if just that little bit didn't make you want to find out, okay, what is going on here? That's a good author.
Oh yeah,
I would add to that too. I was reading about, I was watching an interview about the author, and she described a little bit of her process. And I've written before, never a novel, but she was like, part of her process is she keeps each chapter in a separate Word document. So that way she didn't feel tied to having a certain length. She just would type until she said, this feels done. And then she moved. And I think that definitely is evident in the way you read the book. Like, oh, chapter 1 didn't need anything else. That's it.
Yeah, and that's how it was with it. It seemed like with each chapter, it gave you like a full pack story. But then when you put in all these chapters together, you get kind of like an entire all overarching story. I thought it was wonderful. All right, let's talk about a little bit about these sisters. So why do you feel that, why does Corday feel a need to cover for Ayola? And do you think this has any connection to their relationship with their father.
I think so. I think, so one of the things that you discover as you're reading is that they had a very tumultuous relationship with their father. There was not a lot of love lost in that relationship. And I think very early on, Corday, she took on the, kind of protector sister, when she saw her sister, kind of being, kind of falling under the wrath of their father for whatever reason, she kind of took the brunt of it, or would try to step in and try to cover for her sister. And even in a very big way, as the story unfolds, you see how much she tried to step in and stand in for her sister so that, she wouldn't, be harmed and be hurt.
Mm-hmm. And the family dynamics there, that was another interesting part of the story. When you see the relationship between the sisters and then the relationship with the parents, the mom, the dad, it was seemed like a very dysfunctional family there. Even though there was a mom there was a dad there, there's the sisters, but so much in the background. There was a lot of dysfunction, a lot of I would think abuse, whether it's verbal, mental,
psychological.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Psychological abuse in the background there with the father and the mother, and just all these things that are going on.
I think it's also important to note that the story takes place in Nigeria, and something we discussed when we first talked about this book was sort of the cultural implications of being the older sibling and the younger sibling, and some of the responsibility that carries. I know here in the US, the older siblings, we do have a responsibility to take care and help care for our younger siblings. But I think when you think of it culturally and internationally in other countries, there's more emphasis placed on you are the older sibling and it is your job to now take care, look out, protect for your younger siblings. So I think that's something that I didn't really pay attention to until we talked about it in book club, because I'm not familiar with that. So I thought that was interesting to see just how far she took this job. She took the responsibility of being that older sibling very, very serious.
Yes.
To great lengths that I don't think many people would go that far to protect their sibling, but she did.
She really did.
The author did say though, because you were exactly right. I think in other cultures it is, more so emphasized. But the author did point out, she's like, this is definitely an extreme case. So this is not like, the going norm for older siblings. But she did say she kind of wanted to almost kind of talk with a highlighter about this dynamic of, what would it look like in the extreme if we took this all the way to the extreme, and this is kind of how she painted this. Which I thought was cool, but I never would have thought.
And it's so funny because it does ring a bell with me, because I am from another culture, and there is a lot of emphasis put on the older, especially the older girl, because I know in my culture, as the older girl, I was really kind of responsible for what goes on in the house, even though I had older siblings that were brothers though, and then I had a younger sister. So there was a lot of responsibility put on me because I'm the oldest girl, and I am to take care, make sure that the house, anything domestic kind of falls on me while my mother's at work. But this is definitely taking it to another, I wouldn't even say another level. It's like exponentially to
the extreme.
Yes, very much to the extreme. Her relationship with her father, or I should say the girl's relationship with their father. The father seemed to be definitely very domineering, very, he controlled everything and everybody in that house. And even the way, when I think about the way he treated his wife, which for us, especially being from the American culture, it's pretty tough for us to kind of, when we look at that, we're like, what? And, I wouldn't put up with that type of thing. The feminine, woman in us would stand up and be like, I'm not taking that. But we noticed that the mom just kind of resigned herself, and where you would think the mom would take a bigger responsibility, she actually did not. from what I saw. I don't, did you guys see it that way also?
I mean, she definitely represented to me a very battered woman. When you look at a woman, a wife who is so emotionally, morally, financial, physically dominated and debilitated by her spouse, not even there to physically protect her children, let alone emotionally or mentally protect her children. That to me is not a sign of that's a sign of a damaged woman. That's not a sign of a weak woman per se, but I definitely see a woman who's been so damaged. She can't even, it's not only can she not protect herself, she can't even be present to protect her children.
Yeah. And she seems to kind of zone out throughout, when these things start happening, she just kind of zones out in the back, and pretty much Cora Day spends her whole time trying to fix every situation, fix all the situation. All right, and then first of all, let's talk about a little bit of Iola, and how does she feel when she commits these murders? And it's so funny because we kind of laugh, but there's dark humor.
Yes.
There's dark humor in this book, which is funny because, you may see this book, and even if you just look at the title, you may think, oh, wow, that's a thriller, gory, scary, but which is what I was expecting. So when one of us suggested that book, I was like, oh, gore? No, I don't read gory. I don't read, but they, I decided to read. When I started reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a dark humor here. We're laughing now, but it's a very, very serious subject. But there is a lot of dark humor in this particular book. So how does she feel about these murders? The way,
What comes to mind as you're talking is the Britney Spears song, "Oops, I Did It Again." That's very much so kind of what Iola's character, so hopefully I'm not giving away too much, by the time when the story starts, I think this might be the third killing that's taken place, right? And so, again, Cora Day, the first time when her sister called, it was, oh my goodness, I need to come to her defense. Did something happen? Was she harmed? Let me go help her out. Then there's the second person that's kind of like, wait, what happened? It's okay, but she's my sister. I'm gonna help her out. Now we've got this next one, and you're just going, okay, there's a pattern here now. We got something going on, and several, exactly. And so it's I think Iola, she's very, she, in her mind, it just sort of happens. I didn't plan it, or this is what she shares. I didn't plan it. I didn't go out to seek it. I was protecting myself. I thought harm was coming to me. And so I just, it happened. And I need my sister to come help me out.
You know what? And it's funny because in the book, they make it a point to say, when you kill 3, that's when you become a serial killer. So she did her 3 and then some. Okay, so she definitely qualified as a serial killer, but there was kind of like this dumb innocence about her. I don't know how else to explain it, where you almost kind of believe that she was like, she really didn't get it. A little bit.
I don't know if it was a dumb innocence or she was just a psychotic killer that was able to cover it up with dumb
narcissist,
innocence.
Sociopath.
Because
that part. Her perceived
she didn't
victimization.
carry any of this. She never took any of these killings with her. She killed them, and then it was like, whoop, all right, let me go and post something else on Instagram.
Exactly.
Or let me go do this, because her sister had to keep stopping her from posting things, and her sister had to remind her, you're supposed to be mourning, like you're supposed to be sad right now. And she actually, even in the book, she's asking her sister, well, how long do I have to post sad stuff?
It's
How
already
long
been
am I
2 weeks.
supposed to be sad?
That's the part that kind of, there's no pity, okay, for me. I have younger sisters, no pity. The perceived victimization, the exacerbated, like, narcissistic, sociopath behaviors, like that.
You didn't feel it? I'm sorry, I did. I must say it did suck me in because it perceived her as a victim. A little bit. It pulled me in a little bit. I felt a little sorry for her, but I think I felt worse for the sister who was covering it up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like she took on upon herself, because this was all self-appointed, a lot of responsibility. Just like I would think, like, okay, you don't have to feel that much responsibility, not that. But then if you think about it also though, ladies, had she turned her sister in, and if we're gonna discuss this question, I wanna ask you, would you have turned your sister in? Because it's tough, turning in a family member, that's a loss. I mean, the lives were losses, but now this is another loss. This is like a double loss. This is like having a parent who has one child kill the other, and then do you turn that child in, and now you're bereft of two children instead of one. So it's very complex. This is what I love about the book. It's complex. And as you see, some of us feel a little sorry. Some of us feel like nose pity for Iola.
I think there's also, and I don't know if this is going to be one of your questions, but there are so many layers even to the story, because we haven't even talked about or touched on how Iola is the favorite child. Corday, in her own description of herself, I think she would describe herself as like the plain Jane sister, the responsible one. And Iola is the beautiful sister, the one that all the men flock to, the one that her parents, her mother in particular, I would say, adores and, sees as the one that's going to marry and kind of elevate the family, if you will. And so there's all of these like additional layers of, the child that's doing the right thing, the professional job and not killing people. And then, that piece. And then the favorite child, the one that everyone adores and loves, yet they have this tremendously dark side to them that no one sees and that no one is, aware of or believes. There's this whole love interest piece to it. And they, the gentleman refuses to even acknowledge or see that Iola could do any wrong. And so that's the other kind of dynamic of the story.
And that's true, because Iola could, sometimes I feel like, when the mom is glowing and talking about Iola, I think that Corday should be like, Mom,
he's trash.
If you only knew what this girl was doing. But the mom was so attached to the pretty one, and
do you think the mom would have even believed her?
No,
I don't think so. And I don't think so. I don't think the mom
no. I think that the mom would believe that Iola made those men dead, but she would fall right in line with Iola's perceived victimization.
True. Yes, I think.
Well, it had to be their fault. Well, they must have been attacking her. She's so beautiful and perfect. Oh, the men just was trying to.
And I think it even said in the book, Corday, thank you, said, even if she tried to tell her mom would have been like, well, why didn't you help her? Why didn't you protect her? Why didn't you, and so again, she could never win.
Yeah, I do feel like that's exactly what would have happened. And you're right. Somehow it would have fallen right back on Corday. Corday probably knew that by now. And that's probably why she just kind of skipped it along. But let's talk about that love interest. The young man that Corday actually is, has fallen for, and she tried so hard not to let her sister's path and this young man's path cross. She tried really hard, but her sister, of course, bypassed that and made sure that she crossed paths with them. So what do y'all think about that one?
Let y'all go first.
I see what she was trying to do, because in past experiences, she talked about how boys treated her, but then when her sister would come along, they would automatically just turn and give all their attention to her. But in my opinion, if you have to work that hard to keep this guy you like and your sister from meeting because you think he's going to like your sister, then you're doing too much work. Like, sis, you need to go find somebody that you don't have to worry about your sister taking. So I feel like she worked way too hard to get someone who really wasn't interested in her anyway. And apparently he turned out to be trash anyway, because he did exactly what she was, dreading and what she didn't want him to do. So I feel like she just wasted all this time, trying to keep him away from her sister, when she could have just put that effort towards someone who was really actually looking at her for her. And then she probably would have been a lot happier. But again, that's just my thinking.
All right, I know Sister Julia is definitely ready to jump in.
Danielle, did you want to, I feel like you had a follow-up.
Yes, please have your follow-up, and then we'll let Sister Julia, because they're going to wrap it all up.
More to you. There you go. No, I don't have a biological sister, but like definitely this, what I would imagine the sister code, like she totally trampled over that. In fact, it was, for her, Iola, it was a game. Again, all of this is just a game in life. And I think she was trying to prove to her sister, I can take him because all men are the same. And so even though she suspected and knew that her sister had feelings for this man, she, said, sis, I got him. You don't even need to worry about him because, all men are the same. And let me prove it to you. He's not special. And maybe the sad thing is, in her mind, I think she probably thought she was doing her sister a favor. I think she thought she was helping her sister to show her and reveal to her, this truth about this man. When in reality, I think she just created even greater harm.
That's why her sister should have just turned her in, because she was doing her sister dirty. She was doing everybody dirty. And, you taking my man? Okay, you stay right here. I got you. You stay right here. And I will go right over there to the police and say, I need to tell you something. These are where all the bodies are.
Okay, Julia, go ahead. Bring it up. Get on the soapbox.
First of all, having been the quote unquote less desirable sister, okay, it's a very grown-up thing to say. You need to find a man who's going to love you for you, who's going to appreciate your own beauty. But when you have consistently gotten no play and your sisters have consistently gotten all the play, there is something to be said about holding a space for yourself. So Cora Day's job and all the people there, the guy that she liked, everything about that was her space. It was a part of her life that she carved out that was just for her. That's a place where her low self-esteem didn't matter. That's a place where her sister wasn't relevant. That was her space. So to Danielle's point, 100% younger sister, I don't care if you were trying to do her a favor. No, what you were really doing is doing what sociopaths and narcissists do. People are to be used. And the fact that care enough about your big sister to respect her space. I wish one of my younger sisters would roll up at my job and try to again, I have very charismatic sisters. I love them to death, but there's something to be said about a woman reserving the right to hold their own space. And Iola, to me, her biggest crime besides the killing people, is her absolute refusal to respect the space of her sister, and the feeling of obligation. Like, people are supposed to take care of me. That is something, as a big sister, I had a hard time forgiving in the novel, because it was a theme throughout. And again, Cora had problems, but I know what it's like to be a woman with low self-esteem, and you have this one little spot in your life, and it's a guy you like who is out of your league, but you can create this whole fantasy. And to know the minute he meets my sister, this little fantasy, she's gonna blow it up. And that's something I really had a hard time. Yes, the guy was trash. Yes, he was typical. But I think the part that kept sticking out to me was that was her space. That was the only space where Cora Day was big pimping. Like, she's the boss. She's where her work was respected. That is the part that I could not forgive of Iola in the story.
Yeah, Iola definitely did violate that space. Yeah. And she purposely seemed like violated that space. It's like, I'm gonna get in here no matter what. So that was tough to take. one other thing I did want to say about Corday is her efficiency, her adeptness, knowing how to get out every stain. I thought it was so funny how she knew exactly how to get rid of blood stains, how to get rid of the smell, how to, where to throw these bodies. That to me, I was like, okay, she seemed almost psychopathic in that sense to me, as much as her sister, Iola, was doing the actual killing. He touched me the wrong way, or he was just eating and then, the knife just kind of fell out of my hand and killed him,
So do you think adeptness in killing crime scenes had anything to do with her profession?
It could, yes. I think that had part of it because she did work in the health care field. So yes, but I think it was even beyond that. I think just knowing, how to carry, how to, just work out the whole thing. She
had practice. She was on body number 3, so she kind of perfected the routine.
Yes, she
unfortunately.
Did. Oh my gosh. Wow. Now, ladies, did you find this relationship between the sisters believable? That's one of the discussion questions that I'm sure comes up. Did you find it believable?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess just because the mirror, I guess the way the author just kind of wrote the book and whatever, it kind of pulls you into believing that, wow, this girl feels an extreme sense of obligation and responsibility for her sister.
I think certain parts of the book are believable. I definitely think that a sister wanting to protect her younger sister, I definitely think that's believable. And even in this form of extreme, unfortunately, it probably could be real. I mean, unfortunately, you just don't know. If you think about other serial killers who killed for years and years and years, you mean to tell me that nobody knew that you were out here killing women for 30 years? Nobody knew this. So I feel like when I think about it in that way, it probably is, unfortunately, a believable, situation.
Okay. Danielle, did you find it believable?
I would say overall, I think it is believable. I think particularly when I consider the relationship, killing aside, which is a big piece of it, but just how they as sisters interact with one another, how they communicate, how they, give and take and give, that entire dance that they play with each other throughout. I think that was very believable, and it was, not saying it was a healthy relationship, but I do think there are relationships that exist that way in family.
Okay, yeah. I definitely believe that there are relationships that exist that way. All right, one of the last questions. How do you feel about this story having a female serial killer as opposed to a male like we normally see? And while you're thinking, I want to add this. We hear of male serial killers seems to be something that's kind of attributed more to men, not so much to women at all. And then usually, this is the other thing, usually when it's attributed to a woman, it's because of a man. You get what I'm saying? There's some man that's kind of controlling her, having her do these things. I remember watching a few documentaries on, a woman serial killer, and in it they were saying how, when women kill, it's usually because of a man. Either I wanted this man, or I have a man that's kind of forcing me to do this, and because I want to please him or stay with him, that's why she killed. So what do you think about this one here? Watching this female serial killer, and she's not killing because a man's forcing her to, or because she wants a man. She's killing for sport. I don't know. we try to figure that out in the book. Like, why is she killing? Because she keeps saying they're abusing her, but you kind of don't see a pattern.
Break up with him. Don't break him up.
You don't see a pattern of being abused or anything like that. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
The biggest part for me, it goes back to one of the themes that the author kind of spoke about in the interview, and I saw it in the book. It's the theme of beauty and how beauty can work as currency for women. Beauty is kind of currency for women, it's social currency, but also what that can turn into. Just like for men, I would say their social currency is their strength or their power, and how that currency can be used for good or for evil. And I think one of the things in this book is that theme of beauty, and how it can become something very even again looking at the abuse that Iola as a beautiful girl suffered at the hands of her father, and how that distorted the ways in which she used her beauty as she aged. I think that's I forgot the question, but that's the thing that came to my mind when you started asking it. It was like the theme of beauty and the way it becomes something very ugly, I think is the thing that answered your question.
Okay, but even in what you said about beauty as social currency, we see it today.
Oh yes,
because it's not something that, and I, just for that particular culture, we see that in American culture all the time. Beauty takes you a lot further. People who are more quote unquote beautiful get the better positions, they get promoted more often. I remember a young lady that used to work with me, and she told me, I've never gotten a ticket. She said, I get stopped by the cops all the time, but I've never gotten a ticket. And everybody can't say that, and unfortunately, that's kind of how it works. If you're beautiful, you kind of get a pass.
Okay.
Yeah, and it certainly seemed like Iola was getting a pass.
But I think again, there's a catch to it though.
Yes.
It's a currency, but it's a very fluid, also subjective currency, because again, one, it can lead to something very ugly, and two, it's never what it seems. And I also, just from our current day, beauty does not buy you respect. It can get you out of a ticket, maybe, but one thing beauty can't do is buy you respect. It can't buy you maturity. It can't buy you, it can't buy you a quality relationship. Those are Iola is not able to secure, even though she's beautiful. And Corday, who does not have conventional beauty, she has a career, she has these other things. You know what I'm saying? So I think, again, I think the author teased out all these different ways in which beauty, just the way beauty works in our culture. And I think that, again, it answers the thing that you asked.
Well, okay, to get back to I think the question was related to female serial killers versus male. And I think the thing that I thought while I was reading the book and in relationship to that question is this idea that for all that we know as the reader, the backstory of Iola and our feelings about her, and we, I think generally the consensus here is we think she was completely wrong for all that she did. I do think it's interesting as a female serial killer, in my mind, I could absolutely, let's say if she were to get caught, I could absolutely see a case being made where she could be released and be freed differently than if she were a male. Does that, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I don't know if it's female fragility, if it's, what people's assumptions about what, the power that women hold or don't hold. But in my mind, I still, as the book is unfolding and you're like, what's going to happen? In my mind was going, even before the conclusion, I was like, I could absolutely see a scenario where she might get a slap on the wrist and could go on her merry way. Whereas if she were a male, I don't think that would have been even a consideration. I think they would have, it would have certainly been no question, book thrown at him and all of that. So. And
do you think it's also because she was kind of dainty female beauty? Because remember, she was also very dainty, very feminine. It wasn't like she was a bodybuilding, person that they could think she could take a man and just,
But that was her currency. Just like a man who committed the same amount of murders, if he's very rich, if he's very powerful, he could work himself into a slap on the wrist. And
That's true.
these circumstances where these women were trying to, whatever it was, it's a form of currency, a social currency that I think, again, is just, I don't know.
I think it's interesting when you talk about the whole beauty thing and female serial killers versus male. I think this book would have read totally different if it was my brother, the serial killer. It just would not have had the same oomph. I wouldn't have read it. I would not have cared. But just the idea that you're thinking of a female serial killer, because you don't really hear about that. I think that was brilliant of the author to write this from the perspective of women. And it's something different. It's something we hadn't seen before. It's something we don't see a lot of. And I think just to pull this out and have a woman be the serial killer.
Yes.
Brilliant.
That was brilliant. And I still think also it's brilliant that she wasn't doing it because she was trying to get a man or had a man that was trying to control her. This was like on her own. And, these men actually liked her. And they're the ones that ended up dead. So I thought that was very interesting. Oh, all right. So anyway, ladies, any takeaways, last comment, thoughts about the book? And is there one character that you liked or identified more with than the others?
My character, I don't even remember his name. The man who was under Coraday's care at the hospital.
In a coma.
My favorite character. I was like, if somebody needed to bear witness and somebody needed to stand up for Coraday, and understand her side, and that man that was in a coma but also thought all the things, that was my absolute favorite character. And if you didn't read the book, I'm not going to give you any more nuggets than that, but
definitely yes, if anything, you got to read because of that, because he actually served as kind of a therapist for her. Very good. Yes. Awesome, ladies. Well, anyway, this is definitely a book that we would recommend. Like we said, it's very short. It is a page turner. It's it has a lot of dark humor in it, but it was a wonderful and an easy read. And kudos to the author, because this is, I believe, her debut novel, and she really knocked it out of the park. So again, if you want a good book to read, consider reading My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. And I know I'm mispronouncing. I'm so sorry, Miss Braithwaite, if I am mispronouncing your name, but we loved your book. So ladies, thank you so much. The Brown Ladies Book Club, thank you so much for joining me today, Conversations with Lady Pruitte. Please tune in next time where I have a conversation with another person in my life. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye, ladies.